In this video, we are going to move on to our second module, which is describe the benefits of using cloud services. If I open this particular module, you can see there are these many topics which we will be covering in this video. So let's go through the benefits of using cloud services. Now, as an introduction, after completing this particular module, you will be able to describe the benefits of what is high availability and scalability. You would describe the benefits of high availability and scalability. What are these terms? The benefits of reliability and predictability in the cloud. The third one, the benefit of security and governance. And the fourth one, the benefit of manageability in the cloud. So let's understand the very first topic, benefits of high availability and scalability. Now take an example. What is this high availability and scalability? Imagine I am taking a Wi-Fi service from a vendor. And the internet service, what I am getting from the vendor, I am paying him every month. Now, if the internet is not available every day for 2 hours, are you okay as a customer? You will not. So this is just an example. So same with cloud computing. When I am taking cloud computing services from a vendor, right? What is your main expectation? Right? When I'm building or deploying cloud application, that means my application is hosted on the cloud resources, on the cloud server, on the cloud VM. Now, what are your main expectations? There are two important factors. One is you look for uptime or high availability. Is it always available or not? The second point, you also look for scalability. So what is scalability? Let's take an example of a website, a e-commerce website, for example. In general, the e-commerce website is highly available. That means it is always running. Now, if I am the owner of the website, can I expect the website to go down every day for 5 minutes? No, you are looking for high availability. All the time the website should be up and running. Scalability. What is scalability? For example, today there are 1 million users who in general it always remain below 1 million in every concurrently. If I look at now, 1 million users are accessing it, but there are peak days in months when all of a sudden the demand goes up to 5 million. I mean, lot many concurrent users are accessing the website. When lot many users are accessing the website, there's a load. So sometimes you would see some of the application becoming slow when many people are accessing it at a time. Now for that, what you want, when the demand grows, you should be able to scale up. For example, I would add more CPUs, more RAMs, so that the processing can happen very quickly and nobody feels the slowness. So that is called scalability. So there are two important terms. One is availability and scalability. So you should be able to make difference between these two. Available, always available, never there is a downtime. Okay. And scalability means when demand goes up, when many people are accessing something, the resources, CPU, RAMs, just to keep it very common examples, I can increase it and ensure there is no slowness. So I should be able to scale and I should be able to available. So these are the two important terms. The website should be available. Now, when the very first factor, uptime or high availability. Now, what does that mean? Resources are available when needed, right? So for example, I need the commercial site to run 24/7. That is my need. Sometimes there is a website, I need it only for a certain time period. For example, 10 o'clock till 4 p.m. morning 10 to 4. After that, the sites get closed. So depending on the need, you want the resources to be available on the cloud, regardless of disruption or events. This is the important point. Any disruption or event can happen, but regardless of disruption and events, it should be highly available. Now, Azure has a high available cloud environment. Let's understand this term a little more. Azure is highly available cloud environment. Now, what does that mean? Azure is highly available cloud environment. That means it guarantees depends on the service. So it give you some kind of a guarantee. Now, what does that guarantee mean? A guarantee means a service level agreement, or you call it as SLA. You might have heard this term. Service level agreement. So you and me has an agreement. Let's say I'm the vendor. You are the consumer. You are paying me every month. I would say my service will be available 99% of the time. So there could be 1% wherein there could be a downtime. Downtime means I have to fix something. You might have seen this with Wi-Fi services, internet services. Sometimes because of certain hardware problems or some network issues, they go and fix it, and there is a downtime of certain period. So service level agreement means there is a formal agreement between the service provider and the consumer. Acceptable. Now, if they do not meet this agreement, you might get some credit. Okay, because we could not meet the agreement this month, hence there is a credit, there is a penalty to the vendor, to the service provider, and he pays you back. So service level agreement. Similar way, there is also SLAs are there for Azure, and these SLAs are calculated in percentage. So for example, if I say always available, that means what? 100% available or uptime. Now 100% available is not a, cannot be a reality. It may not be a reality, I would say, because some of the other thing might fail. Okay, so 100% available or uptime is little difficult to achieve. Why it is difficult? Because for everything that you have, I have to have a duplicate. For example, I have multiple towers. Okay, so let's say one tower fails, there is another tower to take a backup. If a one component, one chip fails, there is another chip to take a backup. So replicating everything sometimes will be difficult. So 100% available uptime is a difficult subject. Okay, so what are the common SLAs provided by Azure? Okay, so for example, 99% available or uptime. 99.95% is available in uptime. 99.9%, you can see the differences. 99.99% is available or uptime. Now, when I look at this number as a layman, now it doesn't make a big difference. 99% is 99.95, 99.9, 9.99. What is the big difference? It doesn't literally give a big difference, right? When I look at as a layman, but there is a big difference. So what is it? So 99% is available or uptime, and the other one is 99.9% is available or uptime. So what is the big difference here? So for example, when I take, for example, there is a service from Azure where they are guaranteeing 99% available. There is a service which I'm using and they guaranteed 99% of available time you will get it in this. Now what does it mean? That means 1.68 hours a week it can go down. It will not happen, but eventually if something happens, there's agreement. 1.6.8 hours a week it may go down. That means 7.2 hours a month. So for example, today it went down for 2 minutes. Tomorrow it went down for 7 minutes. So it should not cross this 7.2 hours a month. It should not cross this time. That means they achieved the agreement. 99% is the application was available. It can be more than that, right? Nobody would make the system down just like that. But if that happens, that should not cross 7.2 hours a month. You're getting it overall. So that is how the agreement is. Now look at 99.9%. This tells you only 10 minutes a week or 43.2 minutes a month. Now you can make a difference. 7.2 hours a month. Let's say your business is down for 7 to can be down. or maybe down for 7.2 hours a month, and the other one is 43.2 minutes a month. So 99.9% guarantees you more availability. Depends on the services. Okay, so Azure, based on the services that you're taking, it will give you, okay, this is the SLA. Now let's say I want to go for 99.9, so there is a higher cost. When I go for higher availability, there is always a higher cost for that kind of a service. Now let's look at the second point, which is scalability. Handle demand or scalability. Now, what is scalability? The word means the ability to scale, means you can add more resources. Only this highlighted word you remember. Scalability means you can add more resources to better handle the increased demand. So why are you adding or removing? To manage the demand. So means you can add more resources. So add or remove, both the things are there. Okay, add or remove. That is called scalability. Now there are two kinds of scaling can happen. One is vertical scaling, and the second is called horizontal scaling. See, so many things you are learning. Vertical scaling, and the second one is horizontal scaling. Now what is vertical scaling? Now vertical scaling means, let's say you have an application and you experience that you need more processing power. Now to increase the processing power, what you are doing, you are adding more RAM. Let's say you are going to the Azure portal and saying, I need more RAM, I need more CPU, you are increasing them. So when you're adding more RAM and CPU to the virtual machine where the application is hosted, when you are adding these resources, this is called vertical scale up. You are adding the components. So your virtual machine is your service. Let's say I got a virtual machine as a service. So I'm using the virtual machine, but in that the component RAM and CPU I'm increasing. I'm not increasing the, let's say, hard drive size. I'm just concerned about few components. RAM and CPU I would like to increase. So when you are working on the component level and increasing them or scaling them up or down, they are called vertical scale up. When I remove them, it's called vertical scale down. Your same machine is same, you're adding few components or removing few components depending on the demand. So this is called vertical scaling. Now let's see what is horizontal scaling. Now horizontal scaling, let's say suddenly you experience a steep jump in demand suddenly, and just by increasing a RAM or CPU it will not work. You need more machines. The entire virtual machine I want, not the component, but the entire virtual machine I want one more. So in that case, when you are adding the virtual machine or the container, so virtual machine means it has a RAM, it has a CPU, it has everything, it has hard drive. So you are simply copying everything and creating one more. So when you scale your container, that means you're adding one more virtual machine or removing one more virtual. Let's say you had two and now you saw the demand gone down, you are removing the virtual machine. Then this kind of adding the container, not the component. So component means RAM and CPU, and here I'm adding the entire container like virtual machine. This is called horizontal scaling in. The other word removing them is called horizontal scaling out. So there you saw going up and down, virtual, right? Vertical up, vertical scale down. Here horizontal scaling in, horizontal scaling out. So only difference in a layman, if I have to understand, here imagine there is a virtual machine I'm using. I'm adding more RAM, more CPU or any component, let's say more hard drive. When I'm working on the component level but the virtual machine remains same, I'm adding more power to it, I call scaling up. On component level I'm scaling up. When the entire virtual machine, which has many components, I need one more like that, two more like that, three more like that to meet my demand, that means I'm adding one more machine horizontally. So that is called horizontal scaling in, and when you remove them, scaling out, horizontal scaling out. Now we will move on to the second topic. Describe the benefits of reliability and predictability in the cloud. Like we have learned high availability and scalability, similar way we will learn reliability and predictability. So let's understand these two terms. reliability, and predictability. Now, what does reliability means in cloud computing? Ability of system to recover from failures. Now, Azure has a decentralized design. So what is the meaning of decentralized? Their data centers are spread across the world. Their data centers are available around the world. So what it means, even if one region has a catastrophic or a natural disaster, let's say something happened, some war happened, something being destroyed, or some natural disaster happened, right? People are not available. The data center has been shut down. Something happened. Now, even if that happens, because it has a decentralized design, that means the data centers are replicated over multiple locations of the world. So if one fails, there's another reason to run the services for you. So other regions are still up and running, hence Azure is highly reliable. Now the second point, let's see, predictability. So predictability means I can predict what would be the cost in next 3 months, what would be the cost of my next month, what is the cost of this month. I can how the performance would be, I can predict. So predict future cost and adjust resources. For example, I am using 2 RAMs, I am using 2 CPUs, I am using 2 VMs. So total, what is the cost? I know it. Next month also I will be continuing the same. I know it. Next month I may need to do a horizontal scaling. That means I need to add one more VM. So my cost will be this much. So like that in Azure, you can literally predict your future cost. And the other one is the performance. Let's say I already know I'm using 2 CPUs. This is how the performance is. If I increase it to 3, the performance will go high. So I can easily predict on the number of resources I'm using and how the performance will be. And if required, I can do a scale up or scale down. So these two terms are very important: Azure reliability and predictability. Next, let's focus on our next topic. Describe the benefits of security and governance in the cloud. Let's understand these two terms, security and governance, with examples. Now, security. For example, I would like to install my own operating system. Let's say I don't like to go with Windows OS. I would like to go with Linux because it's more secure, for example. Right? So governance is all about auditing, monitoring, you are meeting the government compliance or not, regulatory compliances, like your data should not move from your country to some other country. Let's say that's a regulatory. So all such demands can be met. Now let's see something, security and governance. For example, I have an option to set some templates for all the deployed resources. For example, all the VMs, all the servers that I have created on Azure. I can create a same set of template I can apply so that it meets the standard, the company standard and government regulatory, right? Similar way, update all deployed resources to new standard. I would like to, let's say the standard has changed, some regulatory compliances have come, so I have to meet the new standards, so I can update. So all the services are available within the Azure portal. Auditing. So I also need to know how many resources. So when I say resources, imagine a VM, imagine the components inside the VM, or imagine, right, all the different services the cloud is offering. Now auditing, find deployed resources that are out of compliance. For example, the recent security update that came from, for example, let's say Windows, Microsoft, is that installed on all the VMs in our company using Azure cloud services? So that is a compliance auditing. Let's say one of the VM is not upgraded with the new security patch, then that has to be done. So these are called auditing. So this all auditing can also be achieved on the Azure. Security patches and update, manually or automatically you would like to apply them, right? Maximum security. For example, I want to take control of the machines, what OS should be installed, what are the softwares to be installed inside the VM. I would like to take the maximum control. So that means high security. It is completely controlled by me. Now in that case, I would go with IaaS, infrastructure as a service. That means I'm getting the infrastructure. That means I'm getting the VM, I'm getting the components, the physical components and all that through internet. I'm using them. But what to be installed, what OS I should use, shall I use Windows OS or Linux OS, that I would decide. What software to be there, that I would decide. You getting it? So you get maximum security. Let's say I don't want to take all the headache of installing the OS, installing the patches every week, every fortnight there will be some security patches. I don't want to take all that risk. Then I would go with PaaS or SaaS, software as a service or platform as a service. So most of the things, the security patching and all that will be taken care by Azure. You getting it? So you get the benefit of security and governance. So you have auditing capability, you have security controls, you can choose what you want, how you want. That flexibility is provided by Azure. So that is the important point. It's like to cover in the security and governance topic. Now our last topic in this video is describe the benefits of manageability in the cloud. So there are many benefits of going to cloud. For example, I would like to automatically scale the resources. I don't have to manually manage. I would like to automatically add more resources, more CPUs, more RAMs if the demand goes up, for example. That can be done. Let's say monitoring the health of resources. If something is not working, so monitoring the health of all my resources, all my VMs, that can be done. Get some alerts. If something goes wrong, then it should alert me. Right? So those kind of manageability or these things can be managed using Azure. The best part is Azure you can access using web portal and manage things through the web portal, which is maximum of the people do this web portal. However, there are other options also. For example, manage it using command line, manage it using APIs, manage it using PowerSys. There are also other options, different options available for you to manage the entire Azure cloud services. Now it's time for a quick knowledge check. I'm going to click on this link and let's see the questions. Which type of scaling involves adding or removing resources? And look at the resources. So it is talking about virtual machines and containers. So when you are adding virtual machines and container, I told it should be a horizontal scaling. When I'm going for, let's say, specific component like RAM, CPU, that will become a vertical scaling. And there's nothing called direct scaling. These are the two things that we have learned. Okay. Second question. What is characterized as the ability of a system to recover from failures and continue to function? So recover from failures means reliable, right? Predictability is about cost and performance. Scalability is different. So here talking about ability to system to recover from failures. So the answer is reliability. Okay, so submit the answer. Let's see. So you can see all the answers are correct. Horizontal scaling is adding or subtracting the number of resources, right? The VM, the entire container. Reliability is the ability of a system to recover from failures and continue to function, and it is one of the pillar of Microsoft Azure well architected framework. With this particular topic is complete, and you can go through the summary for a quick recap. So describe the benefits of using cloud services. This particular topic is complete here.